Welcome to the Young, Dumb, and in Love podcast, where we talk about all things marriage.
Our goal is to help equip you to have a marriage that is better than you have ever imagined by sharing real-life experiences, getting into the nitty-gritty, and sharing practical ways you can start today. Let's dive in.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Welcome back to Young, Dumb, and in Love.
No,
Yes.
that's not. Nope.
Yes. See, this is one of the greatest things about marriage. I typically do things and she looks at me and goes, no.
Okay,
No.
not typically.
No,
just
don't.
Sometimes.
No, Julian, stop. And I'm like, what? What's wrong? We're having fun. This is exciting. But we're back for another episode of Young, Dumb, and in Love. We're so grateful that you guys are here to listen and be a part of the conversation. And thank you so much for following along and being a part of what we're doing here. And we're excited to see the future and all that God has in store for your marriage.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
What did you do with
today?
my...
Today might be a feisty day. I don't know if we're going
me.
to have some fun.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm not feisty.
Okay.
No.
Absolutely.
Just
Okay.
joking.
I got you. I hear you.
There was little mini ear. Well,
I took them
our
off.
5-year-old.
Yes.
She's been home for like a week because she was sick, and then they have
No
school. Excuse me. And so she was in here like taking pictures beforehand.
I need to take pictures of you guys for Young, Dumb, and
So-
in Love.
It's so cute. It's so cute. Maybe one of these days we'll interview them.
I think
especially
we should.
Elsie. 'Cause
100%.
she's hilarious.
She cracks me up
Sorry,
every
I
single
can't
time.
Stop coughing. Okay.
We've been super busy. We've had cheer
it's great.
competitions. We've been traveling. We've been doing all kinds of stuff. But we always want to make sure that we find time to come here and record a podcast with you guys. We've had a couple of weeks of talking about infidelity and the process of recovering from that, how to restore your marriage after that happens. And I think it's so important that we have at least one more week to kind of break it down just a little bit of things that you can do to make sure that your marriage has a place that's safe for restoration so that you can grow more in your marriage and be closer to each other and never allow this to happen again, you know? And so we truly believe in restoration first above everything else. And we know, every situation is different and there's always going to be different stories of what people go through. And we're not saying it's for everyone, but we do encourage that, hey, God can make anything happen in any marriage. And so we want to push and always encourage people to have restoration in their marriage, especially after infidelity.
Yeah. Well, in the episode right before this one, so if you haven't heard that one, it's all about what do you do like immediately following discovery, like as soon as you find out, right? So you just found out. And then we really wanted to talk about, because that one felt, obviously this topic is not necessarily a shiny topic. It's not something really anyone wants to talk about.
But someone needs to talk about it.
But
and that's why
someone
we are
needs
here.
to talk about it. And then also just kind of taking it farther. Like, what does it look like if you stick through it? What does a success story look like? What did it take for one to become that?
Mm-hmm.
So we have notes, and a lot of these I actually, they're from years of experience, like working with couples who, are walking through it and having that those conversations. And then as well as a couple that I specifically know and asking them, like, give me what you would tell a couple sitting in that position. And now they had this happen to them. I think it's been about 8 years now.
Wow,
and
I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah. And they're still married. They're together. And
their marriage is better than ever.
Yeah. They would say that their marriage is actually better than it was before this happened.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what, like I'm going to glean from them and really share with you guys what that looks like, and we've had a lot of questions.
Yep.
A lot of people, obviously, if you are walking through this, no, you're not alone because, the feedback we've gotten since really discussing this topic is like a lot.
Like it's happening a lot. In fact, I think I told you, I remember like looking at you and be like, I honestly, like I knew that it happened a lot, but like this is a huge eye opener because we are getting so many DMs from people that this is happening to. Yeah. And it's like almost like a very normalized thing in our world today. And because we've never experienced it, and we've obviously counseled and helped people through it, but we don't see it in the nitty gritty as much. And all of a sudden, as now that we're talking about it, people are coming out.
Well, people don't want
all
to
over the
talk about
place.
it though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, you might even be close to someone and they've walked through it, but they've never told you about it, you know? So that's what we're talking about today. So the first thing that I will say, and this is like huge, you have got to get into counseling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, you can listen to podcasts, you can read all the right books, you can do all the things, but get into counseling because they're going to walk you through every tiny step. Like, you can listen to they're beneficial, you know, the information that we'll give, or if you read a book or watch other, you know, whatever, like get other resources, but getting with a counselor who's going to sit down with you individually or with you and your spouse and walk through every single thing with you, alongside you. Like, this is vital. And this is definitely the number one thing, you know, that the couple I spoke with, they're like, counseling. Yeah. It is what saved our marriage. Sure. Aside, of course, they credit, and we'll talk about this, number one for them is Jesus. 100%. Like, to them, they were like, honestly, both of our relationships with the Lord. Yeah. Like, without that, they're like, we don't know if we would be still married today. Yeah. You know, but they're like, and second to that was getting into counseling. For sure. And to piggyback on the counseling thing, it's so important that you find a counselor who believes in restoration. Yes. There's a lot of counselors who out there would just look at you in the eyes and be like, yeah, you guys aren't meant for each other. You should just split up. And we've seen that. And you'll see it in TV a lot. I don't know if you pay attention to that kind of stuff, but I do. Like, I'm always listening and seeing how people are communicating when it comes to marriage in the entertainment world. In the entertainment world, well, a lot of times it's like, well, you don't have to stay together, so you can make the choice to just leave. Yeah. And yes, that's true, but that's not what we're trying to encourage here. We're trying to encourage you to build towards restoration. So find a counselor who's going to help you understand that you can have restoration in your marriage, and that they're going to work towards that. They're not going to just be like, you guys should just give up on each other and move on because this isn't going to work. Yeah. We believe if you love that person, you can make it work. And there's a way and a will to have restoration in your marriage. Yeah. Well, and you know, like, this is something I think is really, I don't remember when I really, like, our kids are they probably can't hear them anyways. It's okay. Time is going to pass no matter what. Yeah. So, like, the time is going to pass. And so you get to choose what you're doing while that time is passing. Oh, that's good. Get into counseling, start to work towards restoration, like avoiding it or not working towards something. Like, you're just going to sit stalemate. You know what I mean? And so the time is going to pass, period. For sure. We all know it. Time is a thief. It just comes and it keeps moving. Yep. The time is going to pass. And so what do you want to work towards? Yeah. You know, and the couple, you know, like, one thing too that they said, and we'll talk about this some more, is that both husband and wife have to decide that they want the marriage to work. Yes. For these steps to, you know, to work. Yeah. You know, both parties have to, because being on the same page is going to be vital to the process. For sure. And that's why we say get in counseling. Yeah. Because having someone alongside you who's really like asking those tough questions with you, getting face to face with you, and helping to navigate like those emotional times with you, for sure, is going to be so, so important. And maybe you go to one counselor and you're like, that didn't work, but like, get a counselor, ask like friends, family. If you're a part of a church, go and ask the receptionist at the church or the pastor or whoever that is. Yeah. I know that when we worked at churches, we had like resources and we would help people get connected with a counselor, help them make appointments with the counselor. It doesn't matter how much it costs. Like, it really doesn't. It doesn't matter, because invest. This is going to sound so bad. There's going to be a cost no matter what. If you decide to get divorced, you're going to be paying for that. You know what I mean? Emotionally, physically, financially. And so do everything you can. So get into counseling. Same goal, having the same goal. Yeah. But with the couples counseling, it's so important also to do individual counseling. So you're going to do it together. You're going to be in there as a couple, but don't just do that. Like, the man needs to sit down and have a real
straight up conversation by themselves, get it all on the table, do whatever they can. The woman, same thing, and then come together and work those things out together, so it's important to do both, together and separate.
Yeah. Well, and you're so funny.
I'm sorry.
With you. The one thing too, when I was talking and kind of just doing, my due diligence to share from an experienced couple that talked about it, is the importance of that original disclosure, which we did talk about in the last episode, and how important it was to put all those cards out on the table. And like, especially when you do meet with the counselor, get it all out there, because it was more painful to find things out after.
Yep.
And then at that point, you're deciding to move forward.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the hard part. Now, I think it's hard for people because moving forward, do I just forget? Do I just move on? No, moving forward, okay, this happened. We've acknowledged it. We know, we see it. There's a lot to work through, but we have decided to move toward the goal of restoration and staying in this marriage.
For sure.
So then it has to be going forward. Does that mean it's not going to come up? Absolutely not. It's going to come up. There's going to be days or times where it's going to rear its ugly head. That is the way that the enemy likes to work, is bring things up that are hard and that hurt and insecurities. And that's the importance of the counseling, and, so that original disclosure of here's everything, it's on the table. The other person knows what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Both parties, here it is. This is everything we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Now it's time to move forward.
Yeah. And this does not work if you hold things back.
Yeah.
You can't move forward if you're always holding something behind your back. So when we say lay it out all on the table, lay it all out on the table, put everything out there for them. Don't hide anything else, because all that's going to do is cause more distrust, because it's going to come out later. And then all of a sudden your spouse is going to look at you and say, wow, I thought we laid it all on the table, but there's still more. Wow. So it's always best just from the very beginning, disclose everything, put everything on the table.
Well, and one thing too, and we talked about this in the last episode, they attributed a lot of the healing of he was the one who was the offender. I guess we've referred to it as the one who committed the infidelity. He went away, and they both say that they feel like that was a huge, huge part of their healing as a marriage, because it was a huge part of healing for him. They did a lot of work, on the things that what got him to that place. So the going away, he went away for, I think it was a long weekend, was a huge thing. So that was a big thing. They were like, man, if the couple has an opportunity, even if it's he does something and then she does something, vice versa, looking at those resources. And the great thing is a counselor or a local church is going to kind of have maybe something, resources for that. And so looking into that and saying okay, what opportunity to get away, and being surrounded by people who can encourage you, you know what I mean? Which was huge. And this was something I thought about last time, and I don't want to it's kind of a sensitive way. So hear me, before you get oh my gosh, I can't believe she just said that. Hear this. So obviously we say, and we've said this last time, and I fully believe this, that the offender, the one who committed the infidelity, is the one in this moment that they are responsible for it. Yeah. That doesn't mean that both parties aren't going to have some serious soul work for the marriage to continue to work. Not that the other person did something wrong, but there's going to be things that come up that even the person that it happened to is going to be man, I need to heal this in me. Maybe it's not even necessarily intertwined with the infidelity, but it's wow, I can't keep carrying this to our new marriage. You know what I mean? As we go into this new marriage of both still the same people, not a brand new marriage. Yep. But as you restore what was, I have got to heal some things in myself too. Yeah. And so being open to that work, okay, yeah, they're going to be working on them, the one who is the offender, but I'm going to start working on the things I need to work on too. And so that was a big thing that even this couple said, that, she was like, she goes, I grew in my relationship with the Lord. I healed a lot of like some inner child things that I was like, oh my gosh, or in some deep insecurities.
Yep.
And she goes, and I learned so much about myself, which is just so like, we obviously know that it doesn't, like, infidelity doesn't come from God, like, because that's not what he does, but he will take every single thing and turn it for his glory and like grow somebody through something.
sure.
Even if he didn't do it to them, he will bring them through it, And so,
Well, I would attribute the success of them coming back from it to the inner work that they each did. Yes, they did work together, and that was great, and it helped them a lot. But at the end of the day, most of the inner work that you do inside of yourself after a situation like this, and you can bring healing to your personal self. It's going to make you a better husband. It's going to make you a better wife, and it's going to allow you guys to come back from infidelity to restoration that allows you to go to new heights of your marriage because you're a better person, because you did the work to become a better person. And when you work on yourself, we always talk about this even just in marriage in general, not even infidelity, but in marriage in general, it's so important to always be working on yourself first. So if you feel like your marriage isn't going well, there's things that you're struggling with, that you guys are struggling with, always start with yourself. Make the difference inside of yourself first, and then move and say, hey, would you like to go along on this journey with me? It's the same thing with this. Their success, really, it comes down to the personal growth that they did on their own, and then they brought it in to their marriage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's
100% true.
I'm like, yeah, it's so good.
Okay, so the next thing is they need to decide to move forward. Like, we have to make the decision that we're going to move,
which we talked about
forward.
I mentioned that.
Yeah, but you have to make that decision, like, together. Say, okay, we're going to do this together, and we're going to move forward together. That doesn't mean that sometimes old feelings and old thoughts might come up, but we have to figure out a way to combat those things so that we can continue to move forward. That's one thing that even they've dealt with, is there would be little triggers that happen, right?
Always.
And the trigger might make not the offender, but the one who was on the other side, like, feel like, oh my gosh, I'm insecure. There's something there. I don't know what's going on. And then he just responds with, hey, what can I do? Let's pray. Let's do this. Like, there's always something that they can do and go back to help them come back to where they were, even when those triggers happen in their relationship. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think this is a great question to ask yourself. Like, okay, if you're dedicated to making it work, like, you're both decide, like, we want to move forward, we want to stay in this marriage, we believe that we can do this, like, and this is hard because right now you're in the mud, you're in it, like, you're in the thick of it. Like, try to take a moment and remove yourself from the thick of it and picture what it's going to look like for you in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. What is that going to look like for you? So if you have kids, like, what will it look like if you stay together? And what would it look like if you don't, and not in a shameful way. I know lots of people who aren't together. I am a child who my parents were divorced. And so I understand that it happens, and what I'm saying is, I think sometimes if we can remove ourselves from being in the mud, and we look, then we can see the vision and go, wow, I do love this person. I would like to be with them in a year, 5 years, 10 years. I don't want to picture my life without them. It makes doing the work and getting through the mud more attainable. You're like, I can do this. Like, I want to do this. And so kind of removing yourself from the moment. And that's hard. I'm not saying it's not hard, but it's like taking a step back and going, okay, what would it look like? What would our life look like? And remembering, like, and this is hard. I mean, everything I'm saying, I realize is, like, hard. Like, it's not like, okay, well, that's cute. You know what I mean? Like, infidelity is a pain that we don't see on the outside, really, like, physically. Like, we can, like, people obviously will present physical symptoms from pain, like, from being in pain on the inside. And it can be so brutal because two have made the commitment to become one, and that commitment has experienced trauma.
Yeah.
So it's like anytime we see trauma physically, we could see it. You know, we see trauma. Well, this has experienced trauma, you know, in a way that is painful. So it's going to be painful.
For sure.
Like that's expected.
Yep.
You know, when something's broken, it has to be fixed to work.
Yep.
Like if you have a toy, if you have kids like us, they break a toy, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
If it's broken, it has to be fixed
to
work and operate. So you have to do the work to fix it.
Yeah. If your check engine light is on, you need to take it to the shop to get a diagnostic. They're going to tell you what's wrong. They're going to say, hey, this is the thing that needs to be fixed. And then you're going to go and you're going to spend lots of money and you're going to fix that thing. And it's a lot of times when you fix it, it drives way better than it ever did.
Yeah.
But you never can get there unless you go and get the diagnostic done.
Yeah.
You got to show up, see what's wrong, and then fix it.
Yeah. Well, and I wrote this down. So my family, like, they love to restore cars. Like there's a bunch of cars, there's a shop, right?
Yep.
It's one of the things that when me and Julian met, I like used as like flirting.
She
I was like,
used it so hardcore.
because our friends were getting married and they were taking one of our cars, which happens to be my car. It's a red Pontiac, and
It's a really nice
red Pontiac. And he was like, wow, look at that car. We weren't dating. We were like just friends, barely kind of even talking at the time.
Yeah.
And he was like, wow, that car is so nice. Oh my gosh, whose car is that? And me just, you know, like I was literally 16. I was like, oh, it's mine, like casually. And he's like, haha, yeah, right. And I was like, no, it totally is. And I said like, oh, and there's a car show this summer. You should come with me or whatever. So I guess who made the first move?
You did.
Maybe me. Anyway, so this is the point. Like a lot of these old cars, when my family bought them or they've restored them, they've like literally bought the pieces and put them back together.
Yeah.
They were trash before. They were ugly. They were what you would find if you were driving down through
the interstate,
the interstate, like because we've moved several times and there's a car just junker on the side of the road and you're like, why is that there? Those kind of cars. But the thing is now those cars, once they've been restored, are more beautiful,
more valuable.
People stop and look at them.
They admire it.
And so it's like that can happen in your marriage.
So true.
Sometimes restored is actually better than the original. And what I love is like so like God to say, hey, the original, although, you know what, that was unfortunate, we're going to restore that and it's going to be even more beautiful than it was because that's what I want for you. And so just think, like, just because it...
Don't mind me. I'm just over here crying. That was really good.
Thank you.
I'm fine. You know, with age, I feel like I cry so much now, the older I get.
Well,
so.
and
just keep going.
True.
Don't let my crying stop you.
But so many of like, you know, like if you're a car, you know, like they're barely running, they're rusty, they don't work or they don't run. But given time, given attention and given resources, they turn out better than the original.
So true.
But what does it take? It takes time. And I grew up in a shop. So like I didn't live in it, but I basically lived in it. I would work on the cars I sat in the car while my dad worked in the car.
You smelled like gasoline.
And this is embarrassing to admit, but I actually like the smell of gasoline. Is that
because
weird?
That's what you grew up with.
I don't know. But I love a shop smell. There's a shop smell when you go in to my parents' and grandparents' shop. There's a shop smell. Wow. There just is. And I remember sitting and just watching my dad work on old cars all the time. Like I just, you know, like when you do the work but your hands get greasy, you got to like lay down there and like get underneath the hood and figure out what is going on here. What is really wrong with this car? Why isn't it running? And that's what you're going to have to do in your marriage.
Yeah.
Like what happened here?
Yeah.
Why did this happen? How did we get here? And how can we get this old thing back and better than the original? That was very beautiful. Thank you so much.
I am emotional right now. If you can see me, there are tears pouring down my face.
But I think this is the thing. Like,
wow.
And I was looking up like, okay, what does it really look like to make something new, but even better? And there were words like revitalizing it, refreshing it, rejuvenating it, strengthening it, and then renewing it. And I think the beautiful thing is this, like, I know that there are people listening to this that are like, we are so far from this that I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And I want you to know, like, I hear you. I know right now it's turmoil and it is hard, but I also want you to know that on the other side of this, you could have the most beautiful marriage and a testimony to share to other people who walk through a season like this that will bring hope to those who need it. And so, don't lose faith.
Yeah, that's so true.
In that. But
you don't know the effect that your marriage and restoration will have on somebody else. And so as you're getting restored, as you're going through the pain, as you're going through the mud, just remember that when you come out on the other side, there's going to be somebody else who's walking through what you just walked through.
Yeah.
And you can be a light onto their path, and show them the way that they should go, so that they can bring restoration to their marriage as well. And there's going to be women in your life that have never wanted to talk to anybody about it, and they're ashamed, or they're being quiet because they don't want to be embarrassed of what happened. And you're going to be someone who they can literally lean on and go, hey, I saw that you walked through this, and I've never told anybody this, but this is what we're going through.
Yeah.
And you're going to be able to be the first person to sit down with them and love on them and pray with them and help them and help point them in the right direction. And the same thing with men. There's going to be men out there who we're prideful, like it's hard for men to get
vulnerable,
their emotions out and to talk about how they feel and what's actually going on. And, it's not every single man, obviously, but there's a lot of men who have a hard time with that. And
just kidding.
You're going to be able to be a safe place for them to be like, hey, like on Monday nights, I go out with a bunch of guys, and there's just guys. And it's like such a vulnerable place because they just begin to just like share. And it's a safe place for men to share and say what's going on. And then we help each other out and push each other forward, right? And you're going to be able to be that for somebody. You're going to be able to create a Monday night for some guy to be safe. And they're going to say, hey, you walked through this.
Yeah.
What should I do?
Yeah.
And then you're going to be able to say, here's what I went through and here's what I did.
Yeah.
And it's going to make all the difference in the world
Yeah.
to them just because you walked through it.
Yeah.
So push through, like Brittany said,
Yeah.
push through. It's worth it. You're going to come out on the other end, whether you come out stronger or not stronger, like wherever you're at. I'm telling you right now, like God has a plan for your life, and you need to just stick with him and completely just rely and trust him.
You'll always come out stronger if you rely on God.
That's what I'm saying.
Period.
That's what I'm saying. With God, you will always come out stronger.
Always. Yeah. Well, and I think too, like you were saying, people will be embarrassed and ashamed, but that's what the enemy would love for you to think. It has only happened to you. There's something wrong 100%. With you. You must have done something wrong, because that will isolate you. It'll take you deeper into that mud, that turmoil that you're in, And so being isolated, I would say if you're isolating yourself after this, that's one of the worst things you can do. Like, still show up in community, still do the things that you need to be doing, because when we stay in so much, and I'm not saying just staying home, but in, like, where we're not being honest, we're not being vulnerable, like those things can fester more. The lies become bigger in your mind, or, not saying there's not real pain, real issues, but like get them out. That's why getting into counseling, or having like, I'm not saying go and post it all over Instagram, like, hey, this is what happened. And, and there might be a time that you do share, like if you both decide like, hey, we're going to use this as a testimony, that you share really vulnerable, but in the heat of the moment, you're probably not going to go put it everywhere. But being able to say like, hey, this is what I'm walking through and it's really painful. So if you see me and I look like I need a hug, just give me a hug,
just hug me,
or whatever that looks like. So a few things that I want to talk about. We have an episode all about forgiveness. But a few questions that people ask or that come up are, how do you really know like true repentance, and really like what that looks like, and then how to have radical forgiveness? Because here's the thing, like when you forgive someone, when there's been infidelity, like it's going to take very radical forgiveness, like supernatural forgiveness, where
Yeah.
you really lean in and decide like, I'm going to forgive because that's what I'm called to do is forgive. I mean, we have an episode all about forgiveness. I think it was only a few back. We'll put it in the show notes. So don't forget, put it in the show notes.
Put it in the show notes.
But we talk about like that forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's not moving backwards, and it's not weakness.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think often we're like, oh, but if I forgive, like I'm moving backwards or I'm letting them get away with it. But it's freeing. It's actually a step forward, and it's very brave, you know? And so listen to that episode about forgiveness and, you know, cause obviously if you're going to have that decision, like, am I going to forgive? And we're called to forgive. And I know that's hard and gets muddy and tricky and sticky and all the things.
Yeah.
And then I think it's hard to know if it's true or like we don't get to decide because we don't know someone's heart.
Yeah.
But a few things is, you know, if they are taking full responsibility without blaming or pointing fingers, doesn't minimize or justify or manipulate their past wrongs, and they're showing empathy towards those they've wronged.
Yeah.
And they're willing to do whatever it takes, no matter how hard it is to earn the trust back.
Those are good. Those are green flags.
Yeah, those are all green flags. And doesn't make themselves a victim of their own, you know, sin.
I don't know what it is, but you've been making me cry lately.
I mean, I don't know.
But such a good episode.
Are you crying again?
No, I'm fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
But like, if this is you, we're going to let him. Okay. So recap, make sure you get into counseling, like find a counselor. We cannot stress this enough. And I know we say it all of the time, but we say it because we believe in it. And we know that it has made such a huge impact for, the couples that we've seen walk through this.
Yes.
Lean in to your relationship with the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. Both of you are going to have to make the decision together.
Have the same goal.
Have the same goal. Make the same decision to move forward. Time is going to pass no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So it's so important to do the work now.
Yeah.
Don't wait. Don't sit. Don't wish it away, because it's not going to just go away by wishing it away. You have to take advantage of the time that you have right now.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, making sure in that when you find out that when you sit down, original disclosure, like being completely upfront.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you're deciding to move forward. Like moving forward. Does that mean it's not going to come up? Of course not. But it means that you're making a decision each day. Like we're moving forward. We're not going to stay in this.
Have radical repentance. Have radical forgiveness.
Yeah. Because it's going to be, it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yep.
You know, and think of the life that you've shared and that you have loved, and recall the goodness. I mean, the thing is recalling goodness about your spouse, the person that you do love. It will help soften your heart. And I do remember the one thing that this couple that we, you know, talked to, one of the things he said is he was like, I could picture myself standing outside of my house, looking in the window and seeing, you know, my wife, my grown kids, my grandkids, and I wasn't a part of it.
Yeah.
And I got left behind.
Yeah.
And so knowing like that is a reality. If it isn't restoration and moving forward, like you will be on the outside looking in. And he said that was a big wake up call for him to realize like my actions, I mean, they do have consequences, and, you know, there is forgiveness and restoration, and that's the route that they chose. But he knew like this could be what happens if I continue to live the way that I've been living. You know, so I think it's like important, like I said, like take a step back and look and go, what does it look like in a year, 5, 10, 15, 20, and so on, years, so you know? So,
yeah. And then look at your marriage like a car. Sometimes it may not look pretty, but restoring it, old rusty bumper, might just turn into the most beautiful thing in the world. And you're going to be able to show it off and show people what you did, how beautiful it is. And one day you're going to be driving that thing and you're going to be married together, just driving and living a good life together.
Well, and that restoration is possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. And it's in
No matter
redemption.
how hard it looks.
And we see it time and time again. And it really is, it's the heart of God for our lives, for our marriages, for relationships, is to see them be restored, revitalized, better than ever,
Yeah.
New, fresh, not stale or stagnant, because that isn't what, that's not what he wants for you or for anybody. So believing in that.
Yeah.
Believing when you can't see it.
That's good. That's good. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on Young, Dumb, and in Love. I hope that we have been a help to you, that we've encouraged you to have a better marriage, and that you can grow together and stay strong together and revitalize and restore what was there once before. And if you have any questions, make sure you put them in the DMs, put them right below. Also, if you have any titles, or not titles, but if you have any topics, if you have any topics that you want us to talk about,
ideas, questions.
Yeah, questions, anything like that, make sure you put it in the notes, put it in our DMs, you do whatever you can. You can email us at info@youngdumbandinlove.com. But we're so grateful that you guys are a part of our community.
Until
and
next
we'll
time.
see you next week.